Needless to say, Project Zomboid is one of my favorite games ever. That's why today I created a mod pack for RimWorld that sort of simulates how Zomboid works. Can I survive in a zombie-infested city, or will I die? The run actually starts here, setting up Zombieland. There's quite a few different sliders and buttons here, and I don't know what most of them do, so I left pretty much everything as default. I decided to pick Randy Random as our storyteller, and left him at the basic losing his fun preset. What I did change about Zombieland were these special zombie spawns. None of these exist in Zomboid, so I'll just turn them all off. Besides that, I think that's all set up, so let's get into the run. We start the run in some rundown house. I don't know how I got here, but it's a pretty good base spot, so I'll take it. After quickly looking around, I find some revolver ammo, which is good. Since we're using the Combat Extended mod, ammunition is actually limited, but in return, weapons are much better. I have about 3 days until the zombies start coming, which is great for me, because spawning out in a city means that I'm going to find a lot of loot just laying around. Obviously, I order myself to start grabbing the most important things and putting them into this little stockpile area. I then also decide to claim all of this as my home. As this is actually my first time playing with Zombieland, I'm not quite sure what the zombies do. I decided to set up a stone cutting table. This way I could make some stronger walls in case I needed them. I decided to start working on recreation. Unlike Project Zomboid, being dead pressed in RimWorld doesn't just make you switch weapons slower. Since I actually had no idea how the zombie AI works here, I decided my best option was just to make everything out of stone. That way they should at least take a while to break in. After a good night's rest, I decided to start planning out my little farm. One person doesn't eat that much, but they also can't produce that much easily. As you can see here, I also decided to set up some embrasures. I could shoot through these and the zombies wouldn't be able to walk through them. And in my house, I decided to set up some regular windows as I could close them. I had absolutely no idea that bears could open doors and that a lawman could kill a bear with his bare hands. Let me just turn that off. Since I only had one colonist and I could only have one colonist, I decided to give him the penoxycyllin I found on the floor. Every 5 days he'd take one, meaning that he ideally wouldn't be able to catch any illnesses during the entire playthrough. If you'll notice on the right side of the screen, I have less than a day until the zombies start coming, so I decide to start preparing. Mainly, I start scavenging resources. As I'm only one guy, I'm not gonna be able to collect as many resources as I would in a normal RimWorld run. My best option is actually to scrap what's around me and use it to my advantage. For the time being, I built a wood-fired generator. Something told me the zombies would destroy any wind turbines I set up, so I avoided them for now. I spent the rest of the night basically just planning out what I wanted to build and deconstruct. After all, I was starting to run out of time by now. And eventually the notice disappeared altogether.
The zombies are coming.
Early in the next morning, we see the first zomboid. It's only one for now, but eventually there'll be quite a lot more. Once again, I have absolutely no idea how the zombie AI works here. So basically, I decide to play it safe and mostly stay indoors for now. Well, if I'm going to survive here long term, I'm definitely going to need some place to store my food. I decided to set up a freezer even though my current generator barely stays on as it is. It was around this time when I realized the buildings around me pretty much work as an improvised castle. If I just patch up a couple of holes, I'll actually be able to have all this area to myself. And the zombies probably won't get here. As I was still missing a bit of resources to finish up the walls, I decided to explore this building. Inside, I find a charge turret literally just sitting there. If I wasn't playing with Combat Extended, this would be amazing. The next day, we're hit with a fog, which is just as annoying as it is in Project Zomboid. Food poisoning isn't great, but at least I finished my little perimeter, meaning I now have at least a large safe-ish area I can stay in. Now I can actually get to work on making some wind turbines. In order to save up on resources, I also steal someone's table and a chair. The next day we wake up to 0% threat level. This means zombies will slowly die off. Additionally, a caravan decided to show up. Maybe they'll have something of use. Well, a lot of the things they had I didn't really need. They had more ammunition, and I'll always take that. After bringing in my new table, I disassembled my old generator. Wasn't going to need it now as I was going to use wind turbines. So I decided to also start researching batteries. Took us a while, but we finally have power. Guess now I can start focusing on the smaller things. Primarily, I need to get to work on my farm. Sure, I only have one pawn, but I'd rather die from a zombie than die of starvation. At least one of them looks cool. Eventually I realized I would need to move this chess table into my house too. Finally I get to work planting some rice. As of right now, I was living a pretty comfortable life, and the zomboids barely even bothered me all the way over here. Now that my entire garden was planted, I just cleaned up the place a little bit. I was currently focusing on trying to improve my mood. I was doing fine, but I could be better. Alright, so apparently zombies can spawn in these rooms in these buildings. I had absolutely no idea about this. Thankfully, the zomboids were pretty stupid and they didn't actually chase me or even break out of the room. So I decided to just ignore them for the time being. I continued to research batteries. I knew that these wind turbines wouldn't last long if zomboids started attacking them, so it was best to have a reliable source of power even after they go down. Eventually, some poor beggars showed up asking for a little bit of silver.
No.
Another room filled with zomboids. This time they actually managed to escape and one of them even hit me. It was just a bruise, so I should be fine, but I still have to take care of the rest of them coming in. I decided to head indoors. Maybe it would be easier to fire out through my windows and embrasures. I have no idea what these zombies are made of, but whenever they get hit by a bullet, sparks fly out. They accidentally break one of my windows, and the zombies start coming in. I decide to run outside into my garden. Reloading is too risky inside. I get extremely lucky and the bigger zomboid actually bleeds to death, allowing me to fight with the little one one-on-one. I wasn't done though, so the next day I decided to go and clean up the few remaining zombies in that room. I felt safe, but the zombies in the other room were already trying to break out. I decided I would keep a close eye on that door. There's way too many zombies in there for me to be able to fight them all off. So if they broke through there, my best option would be to just hide indoors until the threat level reached 0. For now at least, I was safe once again. At least now I can sort of consider this room cleared. I'll deconstruct these chairs for extra steel as I always need more. Looking around the map for anything I can salvage, I decide to destroy all these cloth sandbags. The zombies still haven't escaped from that other room, so I decide to keep bringing more recreation types over to my base. You'll also notice I've planted down the charge blaster turret even though I can't actually use it as I have no charge ammunition. I decide to wall it in with embrasures. Eventually I'll be able to load it up. Overall, we're doing pretty well, and the next few days pretty much have no troubles. We actually start collecting rice soon enough, and I realize I'm going to need more storage space. It seems like some of the zomboids are actually breaking through walls here and there as random parts of the map keep getting revealed. After another beggar showed up, he quickly got into a fight with the zombie. And he was pretty bad at fighting, he ended up pretty bruised. And that's exactly why I didn't give him anything. After watching a homeless man fight a zombie, I just continued researching as if nothing had happened. And I pretty much just researched for a couple of days straight. Being alone is really annoying for certain things, but all I really needed were batteries. Later I could consider researching something more advanced. Since my base really doesn't take that much power, I decided to settle for just 2 batteries. Later I could expand it if I actually needed anything else. Soon enough I need to switch out my sleep schedule. Apparently this helps with keeping your mood in check, and I'm going to need it considering I'm currently at a major break risk because of this medium psychic drone. I also decided that I should expand my bedroom upwards, just to make it a little bit bigger. I'll eventually switch all my loot storage to shelves for more efficiency. I also decorate my room a little bit just to increase comfort. And then discover that mad animals actually attack zombies, but the zombies don't fight back. Oh well, I'm just going to keep doing my own things, I guess. The next day I replaced my bed with a scrap shelter. I don't think it's any better, but it looks good and it actually turned out to be excellent quality. I kept scrapping things just to get more steel. Right now my objective was to make a second wind turbine as my batteries barely ever filled. Overall, our Moodle is looking pretty good. Eventually I had all the resources I needed to set up my second wind turbine. Now that I have about double the power output, I should be able to keep my batteries charged. I also went and harvested pretty much all of my rice now. After doing copious amounts of farming, I had to figure out where I would actually store all this rice. I wasn't going to be able to fit it on just these shelves I had built. I decided to end off the day by checking out the rest of this building, this time being more careful not to walk into a room filled with zombies. It may not be the most impressive loot ever, but there's a sculpture and even some Luciferium here, so that's pretty good. I also stole this television so that I could indulge in even more kinds of recreation. Surprisingly, just putting that little statue in my room actually made it a lot nicer. I'm not sure if this was an intended feature, but for some reason I never got the prompt to name my settlement, so I did it manually. I just gave it a generic cheesy name so that I could save the file. So to recap, I have food, I have electricity, and I have a relatively safe area to live in. I think that's pretty good for the first episode, so I think I'll leave it there.